And there's people live as well. Okay, hello. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie and with Corey.
Hello, everybody.
Unlocking Your Truth is a talk show about metaphysics and spirituality. We broadcast every Tuesday from 7 to 8 p.m. Pacific time on 101.7 FM across the Fraser Valley from the unceded territory of the Stolo Nation. And we live stream from the Awaken Your Psychic Abilities Facebook group and from my Dr. Leslie Phillips YouTube channel. If you're a fan of the show, you can also watch the many hundreds of back episodes on any of the major podcasting platforms, but also on my website, drlesliephillips.com. They are all there, hundreds and hundreds of them.
Hundreds.
So, as I mentioned, Unlocking Your Truth is a talk show about metaphysics and spirituality. And this week we have a topic that we think you will enjoy. We haven't done it for quite a while. The topic is animal totems or spirit animals. So there's different names we could call it. Animal medicine, spirit animals, power animals, animal allies, and so on. There is a long tradition in many of the indigenous cultures on our planet of this spiritual connection with the animal kingdom, this telepathic communication with the animal kingdom, this interaction that occurs between the human consciousness and animal consciousness. And so the idea is that the animals have things that they can teach us. So that it's possible for us to receive messages through the animal kingdom. Maybe a particular animal shows up at a particular time. It's possible to receive guidance and teachings and even healing through animals.
But they don't bite, right?
Sometimes they do.
Oh.
Actually, sometimes they do. So I thought I'd begin talking about, well, let's sort of define what it is we're talking about and then talk about some of the ways you can connect with your spirit animals. But we will talk about what it means if they bite you. So if you just think about animals in the animal kingdom, every animal has its own unique personality. And as a species, that species group has its own kind of innate personality as well. It has its own habits, its own behaviors, patterns of interacting with the natural world, maybe patterns of interacting with people. So all of those characteristics of the animal comprise information that may have a message for us who are observing that animal. And so when an animal is introduced as being significant to us, like a power animal or an animal totem, then it's important to observe the characteristics of that animal, observe it in nature, its natural habitat, and think about all of those behaviors and characteristics and that core essence of the animal, because therein lies the information and the message that you can draw from. And like everything in this world, there can be positive aspects and not so positive aspects. And you can learn from both of those sides of the dichotomous coin, as we say. So what an animal totem or a power animal is an animal that you may have a particular strong connection or relationship with. So, for example, when we talk about spirit guides, people want to know, well, who is my spirit guide? I'd like to meet my spirit guide. So you could think of an animal totem as a kind of spirit guide. And you could say that there may be certain animals that are key for you because there is a major message within the essence of that animal that is pertinent to your life. So there may be, just as I've explained in the shows where we've talked about spirit guides, there may be some animal totems that are important for you for your entire lifetime. Or depending on what you're going through, they may show up because there are messages and information pertinent to the growth cycle that you are in. Now, another name for what we're talking about is a power animal. And maybe a power animal is this maybe a slightly different idea, because I tend to think of a power animal as something in the world of shamanism. So a shaman may have a power animal which the shaman can shapeshift into, or the shaman can merge with and journey within. So a shaman who has a mountain lion as a power animal may actually merge with the consciousness of the mountain lion and travel with the mountain lion through the environment and experience the environment through the eyes of the mountain lion. Or one who has an eagle as a totem may merge with the energy of the eagle and be able to scout out the environment from the perspective of the eagle. So power animals are a recognized tradition within shamanism. And not only that, if you think about some of the pagan traditions like, Wicca, for example, then you've all heard stories of the witch having a familiar. What is the witch's familiar? It is a kind of power animal. It is an animal that is closely associated with the witch. She kind of maybe keeps it as a pet, but also that is able to send that animal on into the world on missions, and like the shaman, be able to see through the eyes of that animal. So there's a very long and rich tradition of this in probably all cultures that exist on our planet, and maybe many of them that are even forgotten. And so this is by no means going to cover all the ground of all of the ways in which humans have connected on a spiritual level with animals. So now we've given somewhat of an explanation. How do you connect with this idea? How do you know who is your spiritual animal? What is your animal totem? One very common way is in dreams. So sometimes we have a dream which involves an animal, and that animal has a message for us. Everything in a dream is a symbol. So an animal appearing in a dream is a symbol of something. And sometimes in the dream, you may have a confrontation with that animal, or that animal may bite you. And I believe in the shamanic tradition, that is meant to be a sign. If you're bitten by an animal in your dream, that animal's introducing itself to you, and that is your power animal or one of your animal totems. And so that animal, whether it bites you or whether it just appears in the dream as a symbol, it has a message for you to pay attention and learn from that animal. So one way that you can connect with your animal totem is through your dreams. And another way might be, is to meditate on it, to deliberately meditate on it and invoke the idea that you are wanting to meet and connect with your totem animal, your spirit animal in that meditation. And I believe I have a workshop, one of my Akashic Adventures, the Spirit Guide one, has a 30-minute meditation to connect with your animal totem. So Corey can put that in the chat in case anybody's interested in that. So you can meditate on it. You can do a guided meditation that leads you through a process and a journey to meet your spirit animal. Another way is just to think about, you might naturally have an affinity for a particular animal, that maybe you don't understand, but you just feel this connection, this interconnection in your heart. You really feel a strong pull towards a particular animal. Well, there may be a reason for that. That animal may have a message for you. It may be an animal that you have a particularly strong connection with, the essence of that animal. It may be a teacher for you, and so on. The same thing also, like I said, you might have an affinity for it, but you might actually have a repulsion for it. Just like we said, it could appear to you in a kindly way, or the opposite of that. So maybe you have a repulsion to a particular kind of animal. So what is that teaching you? What is that animal teaching you? The one that you have a repulsion to. Or you may love an animal and then have a difficult experience with that animal. I used to love llamas. I was very attracted to llamas. And I had the opportunity to go to Argentina, and I was traveling, and we came across some llamas, and I was delighted. And so I decided to pet the llama. The next minute, the llama had thrown up all over me, because what they do when they're unhappy is they regurgitate their stomach acid and spray it at whatever is in front of them. And so I never quite felt the same way about llamas again. So that's an example of that. Shamanic practices. There are shamanic practices that can help you to connect with your power animal, and you could want to invoke or call in a particular animal. Let's say you've identified an animal that you admire, and you would like to call in the particular characteristics of that animal. Well, that's also something that you can do. Let's say you want to be fierce and strong like a lion. So you can invoke and call in that characteristic, that energy of the lion, to embody it. Now,
Nate has a question. He wants to know: is a totem animal or animal totem the same as a spirit animal, or is it more like a totem pole animal?
Yeah, let me take a look at that, because there are these different, because exactly, often, and I wouldn't say that I'm an expert on First Nations culture, So if anyone from a First Nations culture is listening, feel free to pipe in. But I think many Indigenous tribes or clans are aligned with a particular animal as a totem. So you have the bear clan or the crow people, and they have a tradition and a history and a mythology about that particular animal. So I guess in that case, it is a spiritual alliance with an animal for the whole group. We might think of it that way. But still, I would say that that animal is a teacher for, a representation of, and a symbol of that clan or that group of people. And actually that brings me to something else. You know, often in traditional cultures, people will wear the garb of a particular animal. So maybe if you belong to the bear clan, you have a bear skin, or a shark tooth around your neck, or an eagle feather, or some other connection to the animal. There's also traditions that will use things in divination from animals, like bones and teeth and feathers and so on, as part of a divination practice. And actually, even ickier than that, they used to use animal entrails in divination. So there are, like, I think, ancient Romans, some of those ancient cultures, they would slaughter an animal and cast its entrails on the ground. And depending on how the entrails configured themselves, they would use that to do a psychic reading. And there are other cultures, religions, and so on, where animal sacrifice is a part of that tradition, where they will shed the blood of a chicken, for example, as a honoring and reverence to spirit.
Yeah, Judaism does it as well. I mean, with the thing on the door mantle is actually got lamb's blood in it.
Right. All right, so folks, you're tuning into Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie, and our episode today is about spirit animals. I hope you're enjoying the chat. We just have to take a break for some ads on the radio show, and we'll be back in a few minutes. Welcome back, listeners. You're tuning in to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie and Corey.
That's me.
Having a fun, relaxing time talking about animal totems. Animal totems, spirit animals, power animals, animal medicine, animal allies. There's different names for what we're talking about.
Katie wants to know if ants are considered, are bugs considered animals in this situation?
Yes, absolutely they are. Absolutely, insects and bugs can be sacred animals. That's another term, sacred animals. Look at the ancient Egyptians. The scarab, which is a beetle, a kind of dung beetle in the desert, was a sacred symbol. It was a symbol of the sun god Ra, because the behavior of the scarab matched the behavior of the sun god, because the sun rose in the morning and went across the sky, and set in the evening. And this dung beetle, the scarab, I guess it rose in accordance with the sun coming up, and it, I don't know, I have this idea in my mind, little bundles of stuff that it moves across into its, so different behaviors. But anyway, it reminded them of the sun god Ra, and it was a sacred symbol. And when you think about ants, they are a symbol of industriousness, being busy, community collaboration, working hard, everyone in the group working together to achieve a particular goal, and so on. Dragonflies, any insect, you can think of any insect. Think of a dragonfly, is an insect that is, the larvae are in the water. It flies over the water when it becomes a dragonfly. So it's very much a symbol of spirit and spirituality. It traverses different elements, the air and the water and the land. So it traverses different levels of consciousness, for example. And so we could think of any insect. The spider is weaving fate, reeling, manifesting and reeling things into its reality, and so on. So absolutely, we do include insects in that.
Definitely. Tracy says, I think I have a turtle spirit guide or a spirit animal.
Well, that's lovely. And share with us what you believe about the turtle. The turtle is traditionally a symbol in, I believe, in Native American cultures of the Earth Mother.
Australia too, I think, has the same belief. Is it Australia or like the Tongas and things like that?
Yeah,
Tongans.
the Earth Mother. And yeah, I can't think much about like turtle behavior, but I guess that's another animal. Well, let's see. I was thinking of a tortoise is different than a turtle. A turtle lives in the water and on the land, doesn't it? But it is, I guess it's a reptile. It lays eggs. It incubates. So I think it might be a symbol of creativity and incubating new projects and birthing new projects, and again being able to exist in different media like the water and the land and so on. So share with us about your totem animal, Tracy. Teach us about your totem animal.
So Tracy also has a question. She says, what about when you see cardinals or butterflies? Is this an animal totem or a loved one that has passed or sending you a sign from them?
Well, so I think whenever an animal shows up in our life, we can definitely pause and pay attention to the synchronicity of that and what that animal may have to teach us. And, there's a lot of symbology, isn't there, in a butterfly, because it starts out in one form and then it incubates. It basically completely dissolves and disintegrates its body and reforms it into something completely different and rebirths itself. So a butterfly is a symbol of rebirth, a symbol of beauty, a symbol of transformation, a symbol of transcending, being more earthbound, to opening to spirit, many, many things. And again, different birds as well, by their coloring and their behavior and so on, can symbolize different things. So can an animal be a symbol of a loved one saying hello? Let's see. I guess it's possible, and I know there are. There are many stories, aren't there, of people who. I know I had an aunt who's when my when my one of my grandmothers died, she got a new, I think it was a kitten, and she believed it was the reincarnation of her mum. You can guess which auntie that is. But anyway, so I think that happens a lot, that people, that, oh, my ear's buzzing. Oh, maybe I wasn't supposed to say that. Oh, yeah. So, I guess it's possible that that loved one can send you a message through the animal. Not necessarily that the loved one is the animal, but they could send you a message by sending you the animal as a messenger.
Interesting.
Yeah. Do we have some other
Oh
questions?
yes, we have more if you'd like.
I
If you're
would.
done, if you're done with your dissertation.
Yeah, I'd love
Katie
to.
says, is there a difference between spirit animals and power animals? Also, does one spirit animal ever change?
Does one's spirit animal ever
Will
change?
ever change? Yes, exactly.
Meaning, if you have one, can it change? Yeah, it can change. Absolutely. Like I mentioned this at the very beginning of the show, but maybe you didn't join us at the beginning, that just like spirit guides, we might have a certain spirit guide that lasts a lifetime or many lifetimes, or we might have ones that just come in for a time, depending on what our particular growth cycle is. So it's the same with the animal guides, that sometimes we might have a particular animal guide over many lifetimes, or for a particular lifetime, or just for a period of time because it matches something that we're going through. So yeah, they can change. And what's the difference between a spirit animal and a power animal? And I've not looked up this in a dictionary to see how they might be defined, but if I just tune into the energies of that question, I mean, to me, what I would say a spirit animal is, you could say, the essence of an animal in spirit. So let's say you dream of an animal. That's the essence of the animal in spirit, or you have a vision of an animal, or you feel like an animal is communicating with you. That could be a spirit animal. Or you see that animal showing up, and that's sort of like my spirit animal. I have a connection with that, and every time it shows up, I know it means something to me. A power animal, I tend to think of very shamanic, like, my power animal is mountain lion. And so at night, I invoke mountain lion and I move into the consciousness of mountain lion, and I travel around, scout around the mountain, merged with the consciousness of mountain lion. So I tend to think of a power animal more like that, more in a shamanic sense. But again, I'm just tuning into my concept of that. And so feel free to anyone to disagree and state it in a different way if you wish.
Interesting. A couple more interesting questions here. It's interesting how people they really enjoy this topic. It's really cool. So Melina says, today in my garden, a frog popped up and hung out with me for a while. I looked up the spiritual meaning. It was pretty on point with some things I'm going through right now.
Great. Yeah, great. And so it'd be interesting to know what characteristics of the frog. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I think a frog is not exactly like, I was going to say, like someone was talking about a turtle before, but you can just see the frog sitting on the lily pad, watching, waiting.
Turn into a
Till the
prince.
moment it leaps, till the moment it's ready to leap, or watching, waiting until the fly goes past and then gotcha. So I think a frog has patience, but it also has this point where it acts and it knows when to act and how to act. And also in the life cycle of the frog, it's got, it lays its eggs in the water, which hatch into tadpoles, which then metamorphosize into an animal that can exist on the land. So again, you've got this transitioning through different elements. So very cool. Share with us, Melina, what you learned about the frog.
Yeah, Tracy commented on her turtle a little bit. Let me pull it up here. She said, the turtle for me sometimes symbolizes to slow down. Slow and steady wins the race. Sometimes it's just confirmation for something that I'm thinking. Sometimes I will ask for a turtle to be shown to me just to know that I'm being thought of from the other side.
Very cool.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's great, Tracy. Thank you.
Yeah.
So Fran says, deer keep on showing up in my life in both positive and negative situations. Is this significant?
Okay, so Fran and deer. All my pens are all running out.
Is that significant?
It's funny, isn't it? It never rains, it pours. It's like every pen that you own all of a sudden runs out. So Fran and deer. Well, let's take a look, Fran, at you and deer.
Dear you.
It's a very gentle animal. Deer is a very, very gentle animal.
Till you corner them.
The image I'm getting is gentle, quiet, silent. They move through the forest, silent. Sometimes they're quite well camouflaged, aren't they? And the other thing that I'm getting about the deer is they are very aware. They're very mindful and alert, you know. And so this idea of, it's funny what's coming up, I don't know why, but when it's eating and it's eating very consciously. It's chewing the leaves. It's very, this is a very mindful, conscious deer. The other thing about deer is, you know, they get spooked in a second and then they're gone. And because they have predators, you know, and so they're very hyper vigilant and alert, aware of their environment. But so what the message that I'm getting for you from the deer relates to mindfulness, awareness, being really, really present and aware of yourself and what you're doing and what's going on in your environment. I do have a couple of, I'll show you, there's a book that I really like. I've owned it for probably 25 years. It's called Animal Speak by Ted Andrews, and it's a brilliant, brilliant book. So we could quickly look up the deer in this book and see what it says. Gentleness and innocence, gentle luring into new adventures. So, I mean, there's pages on it, but that's the key words that he's put in it. So similar to what I was saying.
Well, I get though, in most cultures, you don't choose your animal chooses you.
Well, yeah, that tends to be the idea that the animal chooses you. But I also think it is possible for you to invoke the essence of an animal if you wish to embody a certain characteristic that a particular animal symbolizes.
So Lori says, can you see what my spirit animal is?
Lori. Is it our usual Lori or a different one?
Yeah, it's our usual Lori. So you've become our usual Lori.
Yeah, somebody today came to me for a reading and she'd been on the show the other week, and I don't always, you know, if it's the first time I'm meeting, I don't always know because I don't see what you look like when you're on the show. Okay, Laurie, let's have a look. Whoa, I don't know if you'll enjoy this or not. A sloth. A sloth is what I saw. It's funny. First, this little drip of water came, but then I looked up to where the water was coming from, and it was just like this beam with a sloth So a sloth, I mean, that's also something that I think I mean, I doubt that a sloth is in Ted Andrews' book. No, it isn't. So, gosh, let's have a look. A sloth. Well, one of
Everybody
the
needs
things that
love.
it's showing me is they hang upside down from branches, don't they? They're not always the right way round. And so there's this idea of having an unusual perspective, and this idea of not needing to be the same as everybody else. And this idea of maybe what I do appears odd and peculiar to other people, but I don't care because I'm a sloth. And so that's one of the things it's showing me. It's also, they got these long arms that can like really not just grab onto things, but sort of hug them and hold on to them. And so there's this, let me see what that's to do with. I don't know, it's giving me a sense of connectedness and security. All right, well, I think you could look that up, Laurie, and we are going to go to another break. Welcome back, listeners. You're tuning in to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie and Corey, having a fun time talking about animal medicine, animal totem, spirit animals, power animals, witches, familiars, this whole realm of ideas around the spiritual connection with animals. And we're loving answering your questions. The show's going really, really quickly tonight.
Oh yeah.
Let's really get through everyone's questions.
So Misty says, I saw a yellow butterfly last year for 6 months. This yellow butterfly followed me everywhere.
Wow.
Cool.
That's interesting, isn't it?
Okay. So Bianca says, how would one find out what their spirit animal is?
Well, again, we did talk about that at the beginning of the show, but you could meditate on it. You could incubate a dream about it. You could do, there's a guided meditation in one of my workshops that Corey put the link in the chat that can do that. So there's different ways, or you could just watch out for signs and see who shows up.
The best way is to actually do a meditation, go into a meditation with that specific question in mind. Just like doing a spirit guide meditation. I mean, it's just they'll show up. It's kind of cool, but you can't be choosy and picky. You have to accept what comes.
Yeah. The other thing that sometimes people have is like years ago I did this thing where you you did a meditation on your spirit animal, and then somebody create a plaster cast of your face, and then you paint it as your spirit animal. So then you have a mask.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That'd be a nice workshop.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be fun. Yeah. So Dan says, when you reincarnate, could you become an animal in your next life? Dan, you are one now. A human animal.
I think once we're incarnating in the human evolutionary ladder, we tend to reincarnate as a human. In my experience doing the work I do, and having done it for many, many years, I've given thousands and thousands of past life readings to people. And I would say, on a very rare occasion, have I seen somebody crop up as an animal. I had one guy as a dinosaur once. That was fun. Another guy as a seagull, and and so it is possible, but I think mostly once you're on that human evolutionary ladder, that's where you are. So it could happen.
Lots of questions.
Unlikely.
So, Michael, I guess you could pronounce it. I have been drawn to moose for a while now, even though I live in New York City. Cool. I'm glad I can have
There's
fun
something
doing this.
about moose that has to do with psychic abilities. All those huge antenna, the moose's antlers. The antlers are very much about sense, psychic senses and tuning in and feeling energy.
Bianca says, if a person is outside and a feather floats from midair to that person, is that to be considered a gift from a past loved one, or is it anything significant or just a fluke? We discussed that a couple of weeks ago.
Synchronicity in it, isn't there? It's a synchronicity. This is showing up in your life. And so I guess it's for you to intuitively tune into what that relates to. Some people feel like that is a sign of the presence of an angel, because humans tend to think of angels as having wings and feathers, which they don't, but so it could be a sign of a totem animal as well, a particular, depending on the particular bird it is, or maybe it could be a sign from a loved one. So I think it's really down to you in the moment to tap into your intuition about that.
Good answer, Tim. Okay, Tracy says, will your animal totem change? Like one day you may see the face of a lion in your awareness, and another day you may see a wolf.
Sure. Absolutely, it can change. Or you could have multiple animals. And one day wolf may have more to teach you. And so wolf shows up. And another day it'll be your turtle, because what you're needing to be aware of has more to do with what turtle has to teach you.
So Davina says, can a spirit animal be a humanoid version of an animal, like a cat that is a human size and stands on two legs? Or did I encounter, and I didn't see the rest of that?
Oh, well, that's interesting, isn't it? That sounds like
big bird.
An alien. There are some aliens that have cat-like, features.
Or did I encounter something else, she says, sorry.
Well, okay. You may have encountered something else.
Yeah. I have one of my spirit guides is Big Bird from Sesame Street. So you never know, like you never know what you're going to find around that metaphysical corner. Lori said,
can't remember off the top of my head where those cat beings are from, but they are more like an ascended race, so nothing to be afraid of. Sorry, Lori says, I
also had a dream about two snowy owls flying in front of me.
Oh, lovely.
I get encounters with owls.
Yeah, so snowy owls, so white owls, and two of them. Well, it's a nocturnal animal with extremely powerful, focused vision. And, so again, look up the characteristics of that and then explore how that relates to you in your life.
So Melina says, yes, been the observer, removing barriers that may be holding us back, removing toxicity and going deeper within our emotions, and a reminder for self-love and self-care, knowing when to use my voice. I think she's talking about her frog here. Yeah. I feel like the frog resonates with the throat chakra for me, transformation and adaptability. Definitely. Thanks for your insights.
Yeah, definitely.
Things I didn't think about.
Very cool. Thank you for sharing.
Katie says, last year, an albino deer crossed the road as I was turning home from Wisconsin. I live in San Diego, California, so this was a very rare sighting, especially for me.
Right.
Yeah, that would be like I've never seen an albino deer. Yes. Actually, never even heard of one.
What would that represent? I mean, something very rare and unusual. I mean, I guess sometimes white can be symbolic of purity. So it's like a really pure, but it also stands out. It doesn't have the same camouflage as a normal deer. It stands out from the crowd. It's different. It's unique. Um, hmm, very cool. I don't know what else to say about the albino deer, Corey.
By the way, somebody said nice glasses.
Oh, thank you.
So Amanda says, "Hi, Dr. Phillips. Can you tell me what my spirit?" One more time. Hi, Dr. Phillips. Can you tell me what my spirit animal is also? This is from Amanda.
Oh, well, let's take a look. See what comes up for you.
More fun if you do it yourself, Amanda.
Yeah, it is more fun if you do it yourself, and so. Well, I'm getting one animal show up, and for some reason, I'm wanting to find a different one. I don't know whether this is because of where you live. I don't know. It's making me think of where you live. Okay. I've got two. One's a crocodile, and the other's a bird of paradise. So the crocodile is very ancient, very, very, very ancient, really ancient animal. And very, I want to say, what's the word? Makes me think of the animal brain. You know, I guess the limbic system, the fight or flight aspect. And also something that is very, very powerful. And a bit like we were saying about the frog, you know, it's it will go for its prey. So crocodile, look up crocodile, and the bird of paradise is just, and actually they're very contrast to each other. Just this really beautiful, rare, unusual bird with really long tail feathers, and it feels like that. It feels like the bird of paradise has a super high vibration, and beautiful. It's coming up as having a beautiful song and just this connection with the angelic realm and the higher dimensions of spirit, whereas the crocodile's coming up as being very earthbound and connected to the planet and very ancient. I'll see if crocodile's in here. I think things like that are at the end, maybe. Snake is in here. Turtle is in here. Crocodile. Alligators and crocodiles. Primal energies of birth, motherhood, and initiation. The turtle also says motherhood, longevity, and awakening opportunities.
Cool.
Okay, next.
Okay. So Nate says, I have a general idea of what my spirit animal could be, but I don't know for sure. It's blurry when I take a look at it. Would love for you to look.
Oh, what if I get something different than you, though, Nate? Well, when I tune into you, Nate, the first impression that I get is like a ton of different past lives flashing by my screen. And past lives where you've been in a tradition of working with spirit animals. And one of them was an Australian, Aboriginal Australian First Nations lifetime showing up. And just a really strong connection with animal kingdom in general. So I don't know whether that has a particular animal spirit, but let's see if I can just get what wants to come through about this lifetime. Well, I'm sure I am not getting the same thing that you are, but one of the things that's coming up is a jellyfish.
Cool.
Which is, you know, it's got this kind of propulsion and movement, doesn't it? That and it's got no skeletal system, so it's very I don't know whether the word is flexible. So anyway, I mean, jellyfish came up, but also this Australian Aboriginal guy, and but I'm also seeing a past life as an indigenous in North America and the idea of a wolf. So I'm just seeing like many different ones. So I'm sorry, I'm not getting one to confirm what you are seeing. I guess it's down to you to just have your own certainty about what you're seeing.
Yeah. Bianca asks, can you tell me what my spiritual animal is, please?
Yeah. I mean, I'll have a look and see what comes up for fun, but for all of you, I would just say meditate on it yourselves.
Yeah.
Like I said, nothing, you know, make it a personal experience where you, rather than somebody say, well, it's this or it's that you validate and really feel it deeply within yourself. What I'm getting, Bianca, coming up for you is like a white wolf, a beautiful snow white wolf. That's what I got.
Hey, Misty says, how do we know what they are trying to tell us, like the butterfly?
Well, you can meditate on the experience, and you can meditate on that animal. You can observe the animal and its behavior. So either the animal shows up and behaves in a certain way, and so tune in intuitively to what that might mean for you, or the animal shows up and you can think about the animal and the characteristics of that animal, and what that might symbolize for you.
Or ask. Will we know? Because these animals are mystical in a sense, so you can also ask. They'll share. Katie says, will we know if an animal is our spirit animal if we come across it either in person, in our thoughts, or in images? Can you help me figure mine out, please?
Who was that?
Katie.
Katie.
Yeah.
Well, those are all different ways that they can show up. Through your thoughts, through visions or images, through dreams, or through them actually showing up in a physical sense. So those could all be ways that it might come into your awareness. And well, when I'm tuning into you, I'm getting a snake, which is a symbol of rebirth and regeneration. You know, the snake sheds its skin. Also of the psychic senses, because you know, it tastes the air with its tongue. So there's again this spiritual aspect to the snake.
Well, that's about it for one night, Dr. Leslie.
What a shame we have to finish.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show. Like I said, if you're interested in this, a really great book is The Animals Speak by Ted Andrews. I mean, it's published like 20, 30 years ago, but it's really, really good. Yeah, you know, you can check out my meditation as well in my one of my online workshops, the Akashic Adventure for Discovering Spirit Guides. It's got an animal totem meditation in it.
I put the link up on both Facebook and YouTube for everybody.
All right. Well, see you next week.
See you next week. Stay tuned for our topic for next week. Bye-bye now.